back out here in the garden, and I'm lucky enough to be able to grow some beet in these small raised beds. I've 2 on the go at the moment. Now I've taken up this one and it's not fully matured yet, but I can use the beets that I grow here in sauerkraut, and sauerkraut is a fantastic addition to your salad. Sauerkraut is so good for the immune system, it's good for digestive health, and it's also good for your gut bacteria. It's so rich in fibre, in probiotics, in minerals, vitamins, iron, vitamin K2. So it's got lots of health benefits to it, and it's a fermented food using mainly cabbage, beetroot. I also add in some pre-soaked grains like sunflower seeds and quinoa, and when you combine these together in a specific way and add a little bit of salt and water, they can be left to ferment on the countertop for anywhere from 3 to 7 days, and then they will store really well in the fridge for up to 6 months. And all you need is about a tablespoon a day. Add it into your salad and you've got a fantastic fermented food, a food which is pre-digested by the bacteria that causes the fermentation in the first place. So that food is already broken down, so it is more, the nutrients within the food are more bioavailable to the body, and the body doesn't have to work so hard when the food is consumed or taken in. There's so many fermented foods that you can incorporate into your diet, like sauerkraut, kimchi, water kefir, miso. So by bringing in fermented food into the diet, you're also bringing in probiotics into the diet. Lots of fibre. They're rich in fibre, rich in minerals, vitamins. There's so many health benefits to growing your own food and then finding a natural way to preserve them and incorporate them into your daily eating regime, whatever that might be. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration and you feel inspired to give it a go. To make your sauerkraut, you will need a food processor, a Julienne slicer, some beetroot, some fresh cabbage, some sea moss, which is pre-soaked to reconstitute the sea moss. You'll also need salt, sterilised jars, distilled water and some vinegar. You will also need some weights to submerge the ingredients. So sterilise the jars with some cool boiled water, and to that I'm going to add a small amount of vinegar and set it aside for 10 to 20 minutes. You'll need Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt to make your brine. So into a pint glass I'm going to put in some cool boiled water, and to this I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of Celtic sea salt, and you just stir it well and make sure it's all combined and set that aside until you need it later. Now I'm very fortunate, I have some homegrown beetroot which I have saved and preserved by simply leaving it in the fridge, and it lasts quite a length of time. And I've also got some cabbage which lasted a few months in the fridge as well. So both of these were grown in the garden outside, and I was very impressed with the beetroot. It's an irregular shape but really large beetroot. So from the cabbage I'm just going to remove some of the outer leaves that have spoiled in the fridge. But once they're removed, the cabbage is perfect. And it's a really crispy cabbage, it's really nice. So when you're happy that all of the spoiled leaves are gone, you then get a large container and your Julienne slicer, and you can just shred the cabbage. And that texture is actually really nice. If you didn't have a food processor, you could simply combine the shredded beetroot with the shredded cabbage, and that would work really well. But in mine I like to use a combination of both shredded cabbage, and then I blend some of the cabbage along with the beetroot, as you'll see in a few moments. So take your time, make sure you get as much cabbage as possible. And when you're making it yourself, you can really make a sizable amount of sauerkraut. And it's very cost effective compared to what I see on sale in the shops. These small jars, and they're retailing at 3, 4, 5 euro. So now, due to the size of this beetroot, I just cut off some of the more tricky parts and just cleaned it up a little bit and just slice off the outer skin. Comes away pretty easily. Now you might need gloves in some cases because the beetroot, it really does stain your hands and everything else it comes into contact with. So just take care when you are removing the skin, as it tends to bleed. So I then cut the beetroot into smaller chunks, and I simply do this just to help the food processor, that it's not having to deal with large chunks of food. And you're taking some of the pressure off the motor of your processor. And if you've got a large amount of sauerkraut to make, just do this part in batches. So I'll just simply add in my cabbage, my shredded cabbage. And cabbage is great for so many things. It's got lots of nutrients in it. It's got vitamin K, which is good for the brain. And cabbage also helps with cholesterol. Now, so add some of your beetroot, and into that I'm going to pour a little bit of the brine. If you don't want to use salt, you can leave the salt out, it's optional, but you might want to just add a little bit of water just to assist when it comes to blending. My blender is from KitchenAid and it works really well. So I'll just pulse it here a few times to combine the two. And you'll see this really rich colour starting to seep out of the beetroot, and it combines really well with the cabbage. You don't have to do it for very long, just 2 or 3 pulses. You don't want to make a puree out of it, so you still want little chunks of cabbage. So once you're happy and you're finished, add your beetroot to a large mixing bowl. So again, I completed this part in batches. It was quite an amount of cabbage. And I reserve, just hold on to some of the cabbage because I don't like to blend it all. I like to leave some larger shredded pieces. So again, I'm adding a little bit of brine, which is water and salt. Place the lid back on top, and once again you're going to pulse that mixture 3 to 4 times. Beetroot is so good for the blood. It's a blood purifier and a blood strengthener. It will also reduce varicose veins, cleanses the arteries. It's good for the cardiovascular system. And beetroot can also be used to relieve constipation. So it contains powerful nutrients which benefit digestion overall. It's really rich in fibre. So now just add back in your shredded cabbage and combine both the blended mixture and the shredded cabbage. And to this I'm going to add some sprouted sunflower seeds, and I got this inspiration from the late Victoras Kulvinskas, who was very fond of adding sunflower seeds, and he'd also add in some quinoa or whatever it is that you want to add to your sauerkraut. But sunflower seeds in particular have an enzyme called lipase, and lipase is very good to break down fats in the body. So to this mixture I've added in sprouted sunflower seeds and some quinoa. And it's just going to add another depth of flavour, richness to your sauerkraut. So take your time, get stuck in, get your hands into your food, feel the energy, combine your energy with the food you're going to eat. And if you come across any large chunks, just take them out and slice them down smaller. Now, this is something I could have done at the start. You just take some seaweed, some dried sea moss, and to that I'm going to add some water, and this will reconstitute the sea moss and return it to its original state. Set to one side, and you will use this later. Take your jar that you are sterilizing with water and vinegar and empty it. And you will use this jar now to store your sauerkraut. And you're going to carefully fill in your fresh sauerkraut. Now you can put it into large jars or smaller jars, and it lasts a good few months in the fridge once it's finished and you have sealed up the top of it. So just using your tamper, push down all of the sauerkraut to remove any air pockets which might form. Now, if you like, on some occasions I add half a red apple to the mixture, and that will just add another depth of flavour. So it will balance out that sharp salty flavour with a touch of natural sweetness, and it also speeds up the fermentation process if you put in some apple. The sugar in the apple will act as a fuel source for the bacteria, and that can accelerate the fermentation process. But in this case I've left the apple out, and on top I'm going to add some of the reconstituted sea moss. And the reason I would do that is just it helps with keeping all the ingredients submerged under the brine, and it also adds essential trace minerals like iodine, potassium. It will enhance the flavour, and it will also introduce beneficial probiotic fibre to boost gut health. So when you're happy, you can place a few layers of cabbage on top, push them down so that everything is submerged under the brine, and then place a weight. A weight could be, you could even use a stone that you've cleaned outside and sterilized. I have purchased these from Amazon, and they're specifically for fermentation. So I just put a little seal underneath the lid of the mason jar. It adds another layer of protection just to keep the sauerkraut from harmful bacteria. I then set it out on a countertop or on the hob, and I leave it there for anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending on your own preference. So just sample it each day and see if it has reached a level of sourness that you enjoy in your sauerkraut. When I store in small mason jars, I normally vacuum seal the jars, and you have it there at hand at any time from the fridge to enjoy in your salad. About a tablespoon is all that's required, and you have a very nutritious meal.